January 1979, Iran. I'm 9 years old. My mom is a low-level diplomat. She comes home from work and says, "We have 90 minutes to get to the airport to get out of the country." She knew the Shah's family was getting on a plane and that the overthrow of the government was days if not hours away. We got on the cargo plane with one suitcase between the four of us and maybe $500. Sure enough, next day was the overthrow and lots of people were killed or executed. That's how I wound up in the United States. Was part of a wilderness/camping trip as a kid with counselors in the mountains. We had just set up camp when all of a sudden people from higher up were fleeing down and everyone was in a panic. There was a forest fire rapidly descending down towards us. The counselors basically threw what they could back in the vans and wrangled up 15 kids and got us out. We ended up at some random restaurant. As an adult, I think about how terrifying it must have been for those young counselors responsible for a bunch of 10-year-olds' lives to get us to safety. Decades ago, I was walking home alone through Shepherd's Bush in London a bit after midnight. Two gangs of men suddenly appeared out of nowhere and charged at each other, screaming taunts and rage. When I saw a few guys whip out knives, my brain pretty much screamed, "Run the away now," and yeah, I never sprinted so fast in my life and did not look back. Not a leave now moment, but a think quick moment for sure. I lived in a small condo, gated, in Santa Monica in the 90s. I was in my room, back bedroom, folding clothes and heard a knock that sounded like it was at my neighbor's. Another knock, then I felt like I needed to go check. I walked into the living room just as my front door was opening and a young man was stepping into my place. My reaction wasn't fear. It was anger. I screamed, "Who the F are you and what the F are you doing here?" He mumbled something about being a college student and I moved towards him and told him to get the F out. He ran away. The West Side was on the loose back then and it wasn't until after that I thought about that. I called the police and reported it. Turns out that's who came to my door. He was captured shortly after that. That was a lesson I'll never forget. Fight back. I was prepared to take him on physically if he hadn't left. Wasn't so much as we but me. I was early elementary waiting for the school bus in my driveway. I lived in the country so they picked you up at your house and I always waited halfway down my long driveway until I saw the bus crest the top of the hill. While I was waiting, that classic, windowless, unmarked, utility van pulls into the bottom of my driveway. A man pops his head out the window and waves at me and says he lost and needs directions. I instantly get that bad feeling about the guy and start slowly backing up my driveway, shaking my head no at him. He says he can't hear me and asked me to come closer. I refused and kept backing up the driveway. My mom saw this from the kitchen window and came out to see what was going on and he backed out and left. Not long after that, a girl was grabbed by a man in a van that matched the description of the one that stopped in my driveway. Thankfully she wiggled out of her backpack and got away, but I don't think they ever found the guy. 20 feet deep in a slit trench with my buddy repairing drainage, banksman repeatedly wandering off, unqualified 16 years old, I saw the soil shifting. Told my buddy out now. We emerge and are arguing with the boss who wanted us back in as the trench collapsed with tons of soil and rubble. Look on his face. I'm from Kiev, Ukraine. February 24, 2022. My parents wake me up at night, and the first thing I hear is, "Pack up, the Russians are already here." We expected them attacking, but we didn't expect them to get to Kiev in a single night, which was only possible because they launched this attack from Belarus. After a few seconds of horror, an adrenaline rush had followed. I barely remember anything that happened that day or the following 5 or 7 days that we were on a bus to the Polish border. I was out on a run, and I noticed this old woman, probably 60 to 70, sitting on the curb. She waved me down and so I ran over to her. She needed help getting up, but as we were talking I just got this feeling in my gut that something was off. I felt really horrible abandoning an older woman who claimed to need help, but I couldn't shake that feeling, so I apologized for not being able to help and ran off. I looked back just a few seconds later, and this dude in a black truck pulls up to her and she gets up and gets in no problem. I probably broke a PR, I ran home so fast. Maybe I was just a paranoid female teenager, but to this day 15 years later I still get chills thinking about it and feel like it may have been a ploy to try to kidnap me. I was training for a marathon and ran that route a lot, so they could have been expecting me. I saw someone flashing a gun in a movie theater lobby. I think it was fake, but I didn't stick around to find out. I was 8 at a restaurant with my cousins, mom and aunt, also the same age as us kids at the time, 8 to 12. We were celebrating birthdays. This was a hole-in-the-wall restaurant. 2 guys came in acting suspicious. They kept looking over at our table. We were the only ones there other than the two people working. One kept feeling around his pocket. The one guy was very, very nervous. He went outside and threw up. After a little while, his partner went out and seemed to be trying to talk him into going back in, but he wouldn't. The partner came back in by himself for a while but eventually left without ordering anything. My mom was on alert and was telling us 4 kids to get up now and leave, which is what I think prompted the guys to leave. I knew as a kid something was very wrong. As an adult, I 100% believe it was a planned armed robbery, but the one guy had second thoughts seeing a mom with 4 cute little girls there. If they're out there, thanks for not traumatizing us. This was 30 plus years ago. Hiking in the mountains, sun was setting, and we heard this low, guttural growl that just vibrated through the trees. No idea what it was, but the hair on my neck stood up, and we booked it down that trail faster than I thought possible. Felt like something was hunting us, and it wasn't friendly. Years back, I was walking into a bank. As I pushed on the door, I locked eyes with a teller inside. She was looking at me, shaking her head no. I then saw a person with a gun was robbing the place. I quickly backed up, ran to my car, and called 911. Someone may have in my pants. Not sure who, though. I absent-mindedly got on an empty subway car, and realized at the doors closed that A, it was empty, B, everyone in the next car was pressed up against the window, watching me, and C, the overwhelming smell of that I had just chalked up to summer in NYC was coming from a man at the other end of the car who had covered himself and most of the seat, floor, and window near him with. He seemed to be squaring up. I turned and tried the door between the cars, but it was locked. The people staring at me tried theirs, also locked. They gave me sympathetic looks. At the train started moving, dude slipped and fell with a wet thud and he howled. I was uncomfortable. 2 a.m. or so, driving in an unlit road. There was a guy laying on the road perpendicular to the road. The person driving slowed down and started to take off his seatbelt to move the person off the road. Something felt off, so I told him not to stop and drive around. The body wasn't there anymore on the way back. Could have just been a guy, or it could have been a trap. I'll never know. The Seoul Halloween crowd crush in 2022. I was there with my friends, surrounded by dead people. It took us about 5 hours to leave the scene. I still can't get over it. R.I.P. to the victims.